warm welcome, especially to Martin and Susan Leiderman, who traveled from all overseas to come and help us to find our own voice of the silence. Friends, we always like to start with events like this by the invocation of any peasant. If I could ask you to raise, to stand up. And I'll repeat the lines first, and then you can repeat it. It's the invocation of unity in life. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom.
O hidden life, vibrant in every atom.
O hidden light, shining in each creature.
O hidden light, shining in each creature.
O hidden love, embracing all in oneness.
O hidden love, embracing all in oneness.
May all who feels himself as one with thee,
may all who feels himself as one with thee,
know he is therefore one with every other.
Know he is therefore one with every other.
Thank you so much. Finally, Martin, the floor is yours.
Well, good morning to all of you. It's wonderful to have you here. Thank you for the invitation to share with you theosophy and the voice of the silence. By now, I hope you know I'm Martin Leiderman from Los Angeles, California, with my wife Susan, and we plan to, hopefully, to stay with you all the time. So I hope you too. I know you do. The subject matter of the voice of the silence is extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. It's one of the most difficult books in theosophy. And I'm going to prove it to you. It looks very simple, short, sweet, 3 fragments. But don't be fooled by it. It's highly esoteric. It's full of codes and mysteries and symbols and an analogy of the physical and metaphysical world. And that's what we're going to cover. This is not going to be a seminar on the ethics in the voice of the silence. Everybody does that. This is the divine wisdom of it. We're going to see what's Devic in it, what is beyond the human understanding, the human mind. We're going to try to go so deep into it, and with the help of all of you, that we're going to discover things about us, things about nature, that are so secret and so esoteric, that Blavatsky gave us something that is incredibly powerful, and we miss it most of the time. We miss it most of the time. So I hope that we can explore this little book in new ways that we haven't done before. The reason for that is also that what we know is what we brought us here. And now we're stuck. We need something deeper. We need to look so deep into this to move forward. That is called Prajna Paramita. That is what we're going to try to get to it. That will make us moving in the next stage of our life. And that is what I call the voice of the silence. It's when you see the mystery of it. It's not about you, it's about your soul in search of the most extraordinary gift that Blavatsky gave us. It's the ability to become an adept, a bodhisattva. This is so difficult. It's so difficult that she dedicated the book to the few. And if you think you are one of them, you haven't proven yet. You haven't even tried to understand what it means. At her time, she said this is dedicated to the few. I was so shocked when I read that. Why she didn't dedicate it to the Theosophical Society, to the world, but only to the few? And later on, she explained it. Best suit, I think I have a pointer, the few real mystics in the Theosophical Society. Are you one of them? How do you know that you are one of those few mystics? How? This is the challenge. The challenge is, as we study the book, you need to see if you are one of those. Otherwise, what happens to you? The best is going to happen to you. You're going to get illumination, but not an adept, not a bodhisattva. Right? You're going to reach the goal. Everybody's going to the open path. And you know what I'm saying. You all have read the book, most of you. Everybody's going through that beautiful open path. We're going to deal with that in detail. Very few are going to go to the other path. She called it what? The secret path. And that is what we need to pay attention to. That secret path. Why? We haven't qualified for that. We don't even know what it means yet. We just have a little scratch in the surface of the secret path. And this is why Blavatsky said that Fragment 2 and Fragment 3 is the esoteric section of the Voice of the Silence in the inner teachings. I have the quote for you later. Fragment 2 and Fragment 3. So, the Voice of the Silence is dedicated to the few. I know that maybe, at least I know one person never read the book. It's okay, you don't have to, there was a time, a few lifetimes ago, I didn't read it. and I don't know how many of you haven't read it, but the idea is, it doesn't matter. I want to cover all the elements, right? And whatever I want to say, we have some handouts, with the Sevenfold Constitution and so on, so you can follow. If you don't follow, that's fine. That's things to study, right? This is not easy. This is divine wisdom. This is the wisdom of the Devas. This is the wisdom of the gods. This is the highest wisdom to achieve. It's not easy, but it's a wonderful subject. Now, about questions and answers. If you have a comment or a question, raise your hand. And how we're going to deal with questions? Do you have a microphone, or you want to capture everything? With it? Oh, okay, thank you. You heard that? So don't just yell it. Raise your hand, and they're videoing, and so we'll approach. It's okay. Aren't also have in the evening time for more questions, comments, reviews, expansion, etc. Right? And so on. So we have plenty time to dialogue and to share. But don't hesitate to ask. It's very important. It's very important. Isn't that interesting? To the few mystics. What is a mystic? What is a mystic? So, there are many definitions of mystics. What was she thinking when she said few mystics? That's a different story. We cannot go to the dictionary for that. We need to ask Blavatsky. But we can't. She's not there. She's not here. So what do you think is mystic in the theosophical sense? Anybody? Yes.
I think the person who understands deeply the secret of the voice.
Okay, you heard that. She said, Martin, you're doing so good. Thank you, thank you. It's a person who is going deeper into this, right? Right, interesting. Anybody else? Yes?
Is a person who is absorbed. Is a person who is absorbed in his higher self, or is in the life with the big L.
Okay, it's a person who is absorbed in the highest aspect of ourselves, right? Right, interesting. You see, we all have different ideas, but we're not HPD. The answer of her question is in the book. The answer to who is this book for is in the book. And we're going to find out. We're going to explore it. The answer is right there. And when she gave us instructions, are we there yet? Like a child, right, in a car. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Am I in the goal already? Is moksha over there? Yeah, coffee is over there. So you see, we need to figure it out ourselves. And we will. And we will. Thank you. So, we all know the voice of the silence, and if you don't know, now you know. It's 3 fragments. The fragment 1 is called Voice of the Silence. And it's extremely important, and it's the fragment that will tell us how to get to the voice of the silence. I'm not going to ask you what the voice of the silence means, because we're going to read it. It's in the book, right? But fragment 1 will take us by the hand from the beginning to the voice of the silence, when we can hear it. In this very moment, the voice of the silence means, I speak, you don't. My voice, right? But thank you for laughing. It's a bad joke. It's American joke. So the voice of the silence is a special moment. So special that we need to be prepared. And to be prepared, she gave us fragment 2 and 3 to understand what it means. In fragment 1, she takes us by the hand. In fragment 2 and 3, she explains what's going to happen. And the most mysterious thing in life will happen in the divine wisdom, life of a human being. Isn't that incredible to explore? Yes, what it means? Yeah. This is reality. This is why we are in the society. We know we need to be good. We know we're going to pay our karma. We know we're going to reincarnate. We all know that. The whole world knows that. That's the first teachings of the society. But what's next? What do we teach the world next? Is this, exactly this. For the betterment of humanity. And what do we do with that, and how we get there. So, fragment 1 is the teachings of our road to the path. Once we know how to get to the path, comes fragment 2 and fragment 3, which is, what's the path? See that? What is that path? You have a road and you have a path. We agree? Otherwise, we're going to read it. Blavatsky wrote it. It's not me. It's not me. So, why do we have a voice of the silence telling us how to get to the moment of listening to that voice and open a new path? And why we need to know the 7 paramitas? And why do we need to know there are 2 paths? It's because what I said earlier. Everybody's going in the open path, one of them. And very, very few, very, 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 very few. She didn't write very, 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 because she didn't want to write a big book. But it's very, 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 very few mystics who are going to go to the other path. Why? It's extremely difficult. It's the path of woe. Is that how to say it? The path of woe. And if you don't see the woe, you're still in that open path. Really fun. And that's her work. We're going to read that. It's beautiful, the birds are singing, everything is green, everything smiles, that's the open path. Right? And it's very impressive. The 7 paramitas is what Blavatsky gave us to understand the Bodhisattva path, the adeptship path. In the voice of the silence, in fragment 1, we're going to see the open path. And it's based on the 8 angas, the 8 limbs, the 8 elements of the Yoga Sutras. The fragment 1 ends with the description of 8 stages. Each stage is one element of the Yoga Sutras, which I recommend Patanjali, right? I'm sorry, if the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is tiny, because I like the theosophical vocabulary of tiny. If you don't know, please ask a member. But there are many, many translations and commentaries of the Yoga Sutras. But because the voice of the silence is centered in that book, in the beginning, it's important to have it and to study deeply that book, the Yoga Sutras. Are you familiar with the Yoga Sutras? And some of you with Tiny? Yes? That's very good, yeah. That's very important. So 8 stages, fragment 1, Yoga Sutras. What happened with the Yoga Sutras? At the very end, you get to Samadhi, and if you're not careful, in the open path, moksha, you die. Our masters realized that many, many centuries ago and corrected that problem. Mechanically in quotations, because it's a lot of hard work, you can just take the path of the Yoga Sutra and get to illumination and forget your fellow citizen, you fellows. You see, this is a big problem, isn't that true? This is a big problem. Patanjali and the yogas and these great teachers gave us a very simplified, bless you, a very simplified, but very difficult, don't think this is easy, simplified way to get to the end and to get illumination. It's called moksha, right, in India. And the Mahatmas, in their fraternity, realized that this is no. They need to give something secret for the few, something esoteric, something to correct that. So when you are in the Yoga Sutras and you start with it, and some of you know what I'm saying, right? We're going to see it in detail. This is an intro of the whole picture, what we're going to see here, the mystery of the voice of the silence. You go from Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayana, Pratyahara, right? You go to Dharana, Dhyana, right? Samadhi, Dhyana. When you are in Dhyana, what happens? If you are not crazy, if you're crazy to liberation, if this is what you want, Samadhi and moksha. But what they did in the voice of the silence, and this is what Blavatsky is telling us, is essential study for the occultist, for people who are in this adeptship, in people who are in these fraternities, esoteric fraternities. Dhyana, that moment that will take you to illumination, is now cut with a paramita, right? And the 6th paramita is Dhyana. It's the same one, but then it goes to prajna. And you hear that the most incredible thing, what's going to happen, the cry of your fellow human being. And it's going to open your eyes and your heart and your ears. And he's going to say, can you hear that? Can you hear that? It's going to remind us, and that is a moment that something very different, a special moment in the life of a human being. In that moment that you realize the cry, really realize it, something esoteric happens in you. It is very well described in the Fragments 3. We're going to study very detailed that. Antakarana opens up, really open, because it was getting closer and closer, and when it stops, fulfillment. illumination. You're out of here. It's an imaginary bridge between the higher and the lower. That information is flowing. And when the moment that information stops, what happened? Illumination. So this is the teaching that I copy and pasted here. We're going to study what happens when that closes in the esoteric instruction. And then, when that happens, another mystery happens within us. We're going to weave the Nirmanakaya body, preparing ourselves to help others. You see the story? This is the voice of the silence. And what we're going to study is the path, the problems in that path. We're going to see where we are, and we're going to see where we are really well. And I want to make sure that you see it. But this is very important. So far so good. Any questions? So I can drink some water. No? Okay. I don't know if you're in shock or you Thank you. So 3 fragments, and in the preface, the introduction, Blavatsky told us that this is obligatory, this is part of a work that is put. I think I have a pointer. I still don't grow like Pinocchio, you know, yes. This is part of the book of the Golden Presence. It's put in the mystic. You see the word again? Mystic. This is very important. Keep it in mind. The mystic students of the East. Obligatory. Is accepted by many theosophists. She learned them by heart. So it was easy. Did you learn them by heart already? Of course not. Of course not. You know, it's hard. It's hard, but she did, and I'm glad she did. Isn't that true? And from the same book of the Stanzas of Xian, right, of the Secret Doctrine, what's very important with that statement is she's telling us the vocabulary and the tradition of the voice of the silence is like the Secret Doctrine. The vocabulary is massaged by our teachers, by our Mahatmas. Therefore, the words not necessarily are the ones from the Buddhist tradition or from the Indian tradition. It's from our fraternity, in where our masters belong. The word Antaskarana sounds Indian, but the Indians use it in a different way. And so on. So it's very important to know that even though vocabulary comes from the Buddhist tradition, Indian tradition, maybe some Gnostic tradition, yet they use it in their own way. And that's what we need to pay attention. Right? And that may be also a problem that we have with the world when we use terms that they don't, in that way. You follow what I'm saying? By the way, did you get used to my accent? Yes? Okay. Thank you. I'm from Venezuela, and I kind of speak English. So she explains where they are, and you know about that magical things, our incredible language. We don't know what it is, but you know, we have written a lot about that. The Secret Doctrine tells us in the book 2, part 2 of volume 1 about it. There were 90 distinct little treatises. She learned 39. Wow, by heart. Isn't that incredible? She had a great memory. Yeah? Isn't that incredible? Right? And of those, she gave us 3. Why? Why 3? Well, I just explained it to you. Take us to the voice of the silence, opens the vista to the 2 paths, and and tell us how to get out of the open path to go to the path of the adeptship or the bodhisattva, right? 3, just only 3 of the 90. So we're very blessed that at least we got 3. She did give us, she tells us that, you know, this is a problem. That's more than enough. Given to a world too selfish and too much attached to objects of senses, they are not prepared to receive this exalted ethics, right? And so on. So this is as much as we're going to get, right? And therefore, it has been thought better to make a judicious selection only from those treatises which will best suit the few real mystics in the Theosophical Society, and which are sure to answer their needs. This is what we're going to go after. Yes, ma'am.
There came a question into me from the page before.
Yes, that's it.
There came a question into me from the page before. Can you put that page back?
No, the other one. Sorry. If I can get to it. I know how to go forward, but I know how to go backwards.
Sorry.
This is the one? No, next one?
I can remember.
This one?
Yes, that's it.
Yes? Okay.
You said to be in any way be prepared to receive such exalted ethics, and then it came to me, behind that was in the right spirit. Does she write in the book what is the right spirit? Because it's very important you can have to receive the ecstatics, but when you're not in the right spirit,
Correct.
you miss it. Is it in the book somewhere where she talks about what is the way to the right spirit?
Yes, and again, that's part of what we need to find out.
Okay.
When we read it, we need to ask that question, is this the right spirit?
Yes.
Am I a reflection of that?
Yes.
Am I in that right spirit? And if not, what are the obstacles, barriers, problems, complexes that I have that keeps me from the right spirit? So it's a very good point. Thank you. Yes, the right spirit, yes. And this is exactly what we need to know. We remember, we are not adepts. This is not that we're trying to achieve the last moment of illumination, but to learn from it, yes.
Did I understand well? You said she learned 39 by heart, and the 3 that you refer to, the 3 are the 3 fragments. Those are only 3 out of 39.
There are two schools. One who thinks that it's a compilation of the 39 in topics, 3 topics, and others people say that these are 3 of the 39. So I don't know. I think it's a compilation in my way. For instance, sounds, 3 holes, the 8 angas of, all in fragment 1. It's probably from various places, but that's my opinion. Thank you. Yes.
Martin, before when you asked what a mystic is, in our opinion, what came up in my mind is the etymology that has to do with the Greek verb mio, which is stay silent. So maybe there is a connection. A mystic has to do with this voice of the silence. So definitely.
I see. So you're saying that the word mystic, the root of the word...
It derives from the Greek verb mio, which is
Mio.
mi, y, omega.
Okay.
That is, stay silent.
I see.
Yes, silence. Basically.
Silence. Interesting. Thank you. I had it with the mystics, the initiations, and the etc. Thank you so much. Thank you. Are we okay? Yeah. Moving along. Okay. This attributed to HPV. I always loved it, and for me, it gave me this voice of the silence in few lines. You familiar with this? I haven't found where she wrote this, but everybody says she wrote it. Right? There is a road. Do you want to read it?
There is a road, steep and thorny, beset with perils of every kind, but yet a road, and it leads to the very heart of the universe. I can tell you how to find those who will show you the secret gateway that opens inward only and closes fast behind the neophyte forevermore. There is no danger that dauntless courage cannot conquer. There is no trial that spotless purity cannot pass through. There is no difficulty that strong intellect cannot surmount. For those who win onwards, there is reward past all telling, the power to bless and save humanity. For those who fail, there are other lives in which success may come.
And we have failed. That's what we hear, right? And we have to make sure that we don't fail anymore. So right, I mean, we don't have the power to bless and save humanity yet, a little bit. And we have failed. Maybe this is the first time. But for sure there is some elements there in this beautiful quote that we find a road. Can you read this letter, the size? You read it? Yes, that was a yes. And there is a road that takes us to where? To the very heart of the universe. A secret gateway. See that? You read that? And instead of secret gateway, I want to call it the path. So there is a road that is going to take us to the path. You see that? And it's going to be very difficult. How difficult? Well, it's steep and thorny, with perils of every kind. You know what perils are, right? Troubles, I guess. Difficulties. I heard the voice, right? Difficulties. But she can tell us how to find those who will show you the secret gateway. But she gave us the voice of silence too. To find that. To find a roadmap that can help us arrive to that point. And then she told us that what we need is virtue, dauntless courage. You see the virtue? This is the Platonic virtue, courage. In the Paramitas is virya, right? And then strong courage. And we're going to study Plato also, the virtues, to get a different side of them, right? So there is no danger that virtue, that paramita cannot conquer, and so on. So we need the paramitas. And if we win, there is something so powerful. This power is what we're going to study too. What is that power? She gave us the most incredible teaching about that power. And she called it Deva wisdom, Deva hearing, Deva seeing. Everything that comes from our higher self, those higher cities, is that power that we need to bless humanity. And then we need to be, in the beginning of course, we need to be careful with the lower cities that spring from the lower personality, or the personality. We're going to see them too. So, taking care that the lower cities don't distract us, we're going to learn to recognize through the voice of the silence that about 30% of the book is about the higher cities. We're going to see them. We're going to recognize them. We're going to study them. But when we see them in us, because we all have them, we just don't recognize them. We can start feeling that power only to bless humanity, and for this we need the virtue life. So this is the story of the human story, the divine plan, the pilgrimage of our soul. So So where the road start? It's like a Hollywood movie, right? Where does it start? How we become humans? Don't you think started in cosmogenesis? Right? Well, I'm not going to go through cosmogenesis, that's, that's 20 hours. But we call it the monad, right? The pilgrim monad. And monad is our skywalker, so to speak, the pilgrim in the cosmos, Atma Buddhi. Now, for those of you, and I don't know how many of you do not know this sevenfold constitution, that's why always in my talks I copy the key theosophy page. Here you have the 7 principles. And for those of you who don't know this, you have here the lower quaternary, where this is the mortal aspect of ourselves, the personal aspect of ourselves. And those are the ones who are going to be the cause of the lower cities and so on. And then we have the higher self, and on the higher self we have 3 principles, which are manas, buddhi, and atma. For those of you who don't know that. Do you see that in the lower box? You see the word manas. In Sanskrit, I hope if you don't, you start appreciating and love for Sanskrit. To study philosophy, you've got to love Sanskrit. There is only like 200 words, that's all, It's not too much to ask, is it? No, else, the truth. It's about 200 Sanskrit words. These are 3 of them. Manas, buddhi, and atma. If you don't like Sanskrit, well, you can say mind, spiritual soul, and spirit. But after a while, the word manas, buddhi, and atma become very powerful words, the idea of them. So I do recommend to use Sanskrit when HPV uses Sanskrit. So there is a monad that in the beginning of cosmogenesis, and by the way, when I say cosmogenesis, I'm referring to the Secret Doctrine, right? Volume 1. And in cosmogenesis, we got the monad, Atma Buddhi, AB, and then it becomes ABM, Atma Buddhi Manas, and now we have the human monad. So I have a question for you. This is very good. Where in the theosophical literature you find how the Atma, the ray of the mystery, the ray of the divine, takes Buddhi as its vehicle? Where in the theosophical literature, from Isis to the inner group teachings, all that, Blavatsky or the masters explain how Atma takes Buddhi as its vehicle. You don't have to answer. You just think about it, and you have all your life on the next one to discover that. And the second question is, then now that you have a monad, Atma Buddhi, where in the theosophical literature it says he takes manas and he makes it a human monad? By the way, I'm available in the internet, Martin Leiderman at mac.com. Very simple. And we can talk about it. There's so many beautiful topics in here. So from cosmogenesis, in the Secret Doctrine, we go to anthropogenesis. And here we get the Atma, the monad, traveling in space all the way to arrive to our planet Earth. And we start properly the human being road. So we start in the cosmos. We start the formless human life, and all of a sudden, in one moment in history, probably about 18 million years ago, plus minus couples minutes, we start the road. This long road, really, really long road. And imagine all the karma we accumulated in that road. 18 million years of not knowing the paramitas. All the stuff that you did, all the stuff I did, all that, you see it in my backpack. This is the road we have to clean. But there is a moment in that road, there is a magical moment in that road when we wake up and it's about this moment, right? That we say, oh, I see, this is a night, I see a path over there. And in the voice of the silence, those moments start before you enter the path, before you enter the path, before you enter the path. Thou shalt, thou shalt, thou shalt. So when we are ready to enter the path, we have to fulfill what she called a mystic life. You see that? So we're going to walk on a road. And I tried the best to illustrate this. And well, this is what came out with. So, by the way, didn't have an idea. Where are you? To have the voice of the silent with the numbers. Right? So we have the Adyar edition, and the Adyar edition has numbers, so the paragraph has numbers, right? So that's what I put, 69. On 69, the voice of the silent says, there is one road. At its very end alone, there is but one road to the path. One road to the path. At the very end, alone, the voice of the silent can be heard. You see that? Here we're going to hear the voice of the silent. If you don't read this, trust me, it's the voice of the silent. That's so simple. The ladder by which the candidate ascends is formed of rungs of suffering and pain. Well, this can be better described by these people falling from, to heaven, something like that, right? Suffering and pain. These can be silenced only by the voice of virtue or the paramitas. See that? So there is a ladder from the voice to the voice of the silent, from the road to the voice of the silent, and there is a ladder here. And that ladder is extremely difficult. Suffering and pain. And that's why we need the virtue. And that's why we're going to have a workshop on the virtues on the third fragment. You've got to work this out. This is not a lecture. This is a workshop. You've got to see the suffering, the problem, yourself. If you don't, there is other lives. It's okay. Blavatsky told us that. But you're going to get the tools. But we also have wonderful tools, the virtues, the antidote to those. So before the road, cosmogenesis and anthropogenesis. That's why we studied the secret doctrine, to have the whole picture. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what theosophy is. Nowadays, we have a treasure to show to the world. The complete picture is not just to be good, it's where we came from. The cycles of life. What are those mysteries in the universe? What is that wisdom that we need? This is what we have to offer the world. Exactly this. And to show them we're on a road that is going to take us sooner or later to a ladder, a path. And that path is going to be even harder and difficult. But if you give up, you get illumination. Very impressive. right? This is very good of merit. We done? We illuminated. Okay, one more minute. Thank you. So, and there is much more because this path at the very end is 2 paths, right? Did I see a hand? And then we go to the break. If there's a I have divided this into 2 sessions for the road, the voice of the silence fragment, and that's going to be today. And then 2 sessions today and tomorrow about the paramitas, the 3rd fragment, and tomorrow Sunday, the path, the 2 paths, 2 sessions. Then in Monday we're going to, and I left for Monday, what I call the yummy part, which is yummy. The first part is the occult teaching, which is the notion of Antakarana and the cities and so on, what I don't cover earlier. And then we're going to see 2 programs on recognizing, or maybe 3, recognizing the voice of the silence, in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and in the Plato's allegory of the cave, just to see the voice, right? Symbology, right? Symbolically. And then, because we're talking about the Bodhisattvas, the human, the Buddha, I thought it's good to finish on Tuesday with the Blavatsky writings on the mystery of the Buddha, related to the 3 ways that she explained the reincarnation process, or the incarnation process. The Buddha, the adept, and you and me, the humans. You and me, we humans, you know that. You got to know that. So Blavatsky, in those wonderful section of the mystery of the Buddha, she explained those 3 ways of incarnating. And it would be nice to end up with something extremely esoteric and related to us. And the 3 sublime roads, of course. And we graduate by the end of Tuesday. So I hope you enjoy it. Wish we could. Therefore, the elements in theosophy, I hope is very clear that our story, even though we are on the road, getting closer to a path, our story started in cosmogenesis as a monad, correct? And it's important to see it. And then we landed on this beautiful planet, blue planet. And that's in anthropogenesis. And now that we acquire manas and kamamanas, then we're on the road. And that's our story. The first thing we need on the road is ethics, a morality and a code of conduct. Otherwise we kill each other. We are killing each other, but we need more and more and more. But for those who awake to a world of divine wisdom, we need more than that. We need to nurture our soul with the esoteric. And that's what we're here, to study something deeper than that. It's so important to deal with morality and ethics. Most of our talk should be about morality and ethics. You agree with me, right? To raise their consciousness to universal brotherhood, sisterhood, humanity, so we stop killing each other. But when people awake that there is a path, we need to continue that story with the voice of the silence. Tell them more, teach them more, right? So everybody talks about the virtues. Nobody has a complete story, unless you are a mystic. and you see it. So, therefore, we're not going to study this, but in the secret doctrine, we understand about the law. And again, can you read this in the back?
Yeah.
Yes? So you don't need glasses. This is good, this is good. The law is eternal and uncreated. This is in the secret doctrine. Deity is law, and vice versa. These are lines from the secret doctrine, right? And for scientists, they say, well, there are laws, and for theosophy, for religion, it's this deity, and in theosophy, deity is the law, right? So for us, we combine law and deity as one. Deity is law, law is deity, but religion, this is what they say, the secret doctrine, and that's the beauty of deity. What is deity? Is law. What is law? Deity. This is so simple, isn't it? Yeah, what is deity? What is the law? You know. So when you ask what is deity, and do you understand what the law is? You are that person who loves the law. If you tell a person law is in singular, right? And in capital. Says, well, what law? No, law is deity. Okay, I understand. You see a religious person will say, wow, of course deity is law. We're all different. Yes, scientist and artist, and right? Or you can say the one. You know, you're Pythagorean, Platonist. The one is deity, the one is the law. But that law unfolds everything in the manifested universe on a sevenfold principle. And from then on, 777 is the keynote. It makes it very simple, that keynote of 7. Right? And that sevenfold principle is where our monad pilgrimage occurs, right? Through a countless circular chains of worlds in the 4 lower planes of 7. And now we're on our planet Earth. And this is what theosophy teaches. I hope that we teach that with reservation among us. People may not be ready for that yet. Still, if they are, they will knock at the door and stay. But I don't think we should be in public lectures talking about the rounds and the chains, but that's personal. But if a person says, but there must be something more, come through this door, and so on. But again, some people are ready, like you and me, and so on. So the art stanzas related to the monad in cosmogenesis and anthropogenesis. But once we are on the path, it's about the road, the path, and the choice. Right? The third fundamental proposition in cosmogenesis tells us really clear the monad. Would you like to read it? Yes. The third fundamental. Can you read it?
Shows the fundamental identity of all souls with the universal oversoul, the latter being itself an aspect of the unknown root, and the obligatory pilgrimage for every soul, a spark of the former, through the cycle of incarnation or necessity, in accordance with cyclic and karmic law during the whole term. In other words, no purely spiritual Buddhi, divine soul, can have an independent conscious existence before the spark which issued from the pure essence of the universal sixth principle or oversoul has passed through every elemental form of the phenomenal world of that manvantara or manifestation, and B, acquired individuality, first by natural impulse and then by self-induced and self-devised efforts checked by its karma, thus ascending through all the degrees of intelligence, from the lowest to the highest manas, from mineral and plant up to the holiest archangel, Dhyani Buddha. The pivotal doctrine of the esoteric philosophy admits no privileges or special gifts in man save those won by his own ego, through personal effort and merit, throughout a long series of metempsychoses and reincarnations.
Thank you, Susan. So this is who we are. This is what we teach. This is our divine wisdom. It is really embodied in the third fundamental proposition regarding the human model. Any questions on this? This is forever, right? This is an impressive study that we all need to do. Therefore, remember, this is the motto. This is what we're going to see. There is one road to the path. At its very end alone, the voice of the silence can be heard. The ladder by which the candidate ascends is formed by rungs of suffering and pain. This can be silenced only by the voice of virtue. Do you see yourself here? This is the first moment to realize where are we on the road. Are we closer to the path? Are we already realizing the tremendous task ahead? Or are we still struggling to figure out who we are? And we need psychology, we need morality, we need to learn how to help each other, help ourselves. This is the road. And again, this is nothing bad, but we need to move forward. And to move forward, the human nature needs to be under control. And that's the next teaching. We need to figure out what is that human nature. But all our work to be done in this road, which is very difficult, it is to figure out who we are for the next stage. And remember, in the voice of the silence, we need to find things that tell us before you enter the path, before you can approach, before you do this, before. You see that? He's giving us all these tips, all these points. So if we can check mark. So this is how it works. Look at this. This is how you're going to work this out. You take everything, you read the whole book, you yellow with a highlight what you need to know before you enter the path, and you study this. For instance, number 3. Before you enter the path, you need to know the nature of the city. Yes, I know. You see that? How easy it is? Before that path is entered, you must destroy the lunar body. Me, I did. Cleanse thy mind body, totally clean. I took a shower yesterday. Clean thy heart, tick-tack, totally clean. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I need to take pomegranate, wine, whatever, to clean my arteries. But yeah, it's fairly clean. Kill thy desires. I desire nothing. This is me, right? Make vices. I don't have vices, right? Solemn journey. I'm there. You cannot travel the path before you are the path. I am the path. This is a human being who has no clue. Isn't that true? You have no clue. Everything is fine. And if we tell that human being is not true, he gets mad with us. No feedback. You find people like that, right? You tell you need to do this. No, not me. So what do we need to do? It's really to look ourselves exactly who we are. Impossible to do. Very difficult to do. And it becomes easier and easier as we reflect on our own acts. We all have to find a way to do it. We're all different. There is no one way to do this. Find your way to figure out where you are. But you need to know what are the steps, what you need to do. There is no time in this seminar to go over all this. Maybe we can explore some tonight and tomorrow night. But this is your own work. If you like the voice of the silence, please do this. You are on the road. You are not on the path. That's obvious. We just failed. We just came back. We need to retake the path. And to retake the path, this is the check mark. Do I know what it means to clean my heart? And if you don't know, let's study that. And if you don't know how to study that, that's why we do groups. To help each other with openness. Right? And so on. So what do you do with this? You find them and you reflect on that. And when you do that openly, you're going to see that you're changing. And those changes are very powerful. Very, very powerful. Any question on this? Again, we don't have the time to go over all this. Most of the talks of the voice of the silence that I've seen in the internet, or all of them, is about how to do this. Everybody's really good in explaining this. The ethics, right? The morality of this. And there are wonderful books about this. Yet we fail to do it in fullness. Yet we're still struggling with all this, and that's our work. But we need to know more, because we want to know more. Fragment 1 starts with 3 instructions. These are the most important thing on this road. These are the first instructions. Therefore, we know we need to do all what we said before. But the very first 3 instructions on the voice of the silence has to do with 3 things. Know what the distractions are, which are always the lower cities. Know them. What are the higher cities? The 3 books are going to tell us. Blavatsky does not dealt or work too much on the lower. She told us to be careful. She told us to learn about it, learn about the danger, and know to recognize they are the lower because they came from the lower aspect of our personality. The whole book is about the higher cities. We're going to study that in a few moments. So don't worry about the higher cities because it's the rest of the book. But we need to know, first instruction is how to recognize the cities. Remember, this is the Pali. In Sanskrit is siddhi. Siddhi with an S. Siddhi. We all have them. Most of us are not aware. Every time that a person approaches you, your cities are, there's a human, there's an aura coming towards me, and you start, sensing that person. Isn't that true? You see, you start looking. I want to ask you a very difficult question. Immediately, cities are working, and they are destructive. And destruction, because we both humans, we both brother and sister, we are both monads, lost in the road. And yet, the cities are there at work. We all have them. We all working on them. We don't know it. And we must be aware of them. First instruction, know your lower cities. And don't be ignorant of that. But they're dangerous. Why? They keep you from unity. They keep you from the depth world, the oneness, the higher self. And see them at work. And be careful with them because of all the things that people say about that. It's all true, but they're all there. First instruction. See them at work. And don't evoke them. And she's going to tell us how to avoid that in few minutes. Second is the nature of dharana. The reason why dharana is here is because it's the moment that you learn how to use your mind. Concentration. This is the turning point of a human being. When you start thinking, when you concentrate. Which also is the stage before dhyana. And dhyana is the real problem in esoteric Buddhism. Dhyana can take you to moksha, and in moksha you forgot your fellow citizen, your fellow human being. So dhyana is a real beauty and troublesome for the masters. You want to make sure you don't fall in that trap, which we are going to, most of us. Only the few will know. But let's see them. Let's see them at work. So knowing, and by the way, please study the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And again, if you like Taimni, that's my favorite. He uses that theosophical vocabulary. Most people in the academia don't like Taimni because it's theosophical vocabulary. There are wonderful Indian books out there. Anybody has another favorite? The Yoga Sutras. William Judge had a translation of the Yoga Sutras. And he probably uses theosophical vocabulary too, very useful, and so on. So study dharana. But the moment you can concentrate, a couple things are going to happen. First, question, you know how to concentrate? The answer is, I told you already, yes, that's me. Yes, I know, of course. And it is to focus. Blavatsky gave us an incredible definition, you remember? In that note, oh, I didn't put a number here. It is an intense and perfect concentration of the mind upon some interior object with pratyahara, total absence of the senses. The senses will not affect you, right? 5 senses are not going to bring information. You totally concentrated. When you concentrate, time and space disappear. The senses are not bringing you information. How do you know you were in dharana? Time flew. Space flies. If you are painting and you are in dharana, that moment of being one with the paint, you all experience that. Paint or work or in a homework, in anything, you just concentrate. It's a beautiful moment. And what happened in that is you are allowing kama-manas to stop, manas to start working. When manas start working, deva, seeing, deva, hearing, deva, knowledge happens. Higher cities happen. This is a moment of incredible proportion. Plato called it, your eye of contemplation is at work. You can see the ideas, abstract ideas. These incredible, beautiful painters that it was produced in Europe 100 years ago, right? Kandinsky, you know. There's so many here. You have a home for them, you know. They saw ideas. They didn't care, like Rembrandt, to paint a human being perfect. They wanted the idea of the human, the idea of the color, the idea of you know, like Plato said, the abstract idea. This is what happens. And that's why they all study theosophy. They wanted to understand this world. And that's why that's the book of Kandinsky, what is it, The Eternal Beauty? Something like that. It's full about Blavatsky. He said, Blavatsky is the only way that you can understand my painting. Imagine them, you know, Kandinsky. I mean, The Eternal Beauty, or one of those books. I don't read the Russian, but in English it's something about you. And it's free in Google. They scan it. And it's all about Blavatsky. It's just incredible. They were all students of philosophy. Why this? They wanted to see more. They wanted to operate from that level. So dharana is extremely important to start seeing things, hearing things, comprehending things that is divine. That is divine. And then, once you do that, mind is at work. Now you really need to understand mind. Before, mind, Kamamanas was taking you on the road, right? Wherever there was food, there you went. Wherever there was problem, you avoided, and so on. Instincts took over, right? Instinct for this, instinct for that. And now the mind is at work. Danger. Mind is extremely powerful, especially Kamamana. So we need to know mind. So these three instructions are the keynote to control our life on the road, so we can open up to the path. Any questions? Any thoughts? Any comments? Yes, in the back. Thank you, Susan.
Dharana, it seems to me to be open concentration. It's not closed, is it?
Oh, that's a question.
Yes.
Okay, first we need to, if you could explain what open and closed concentration is, please.
I think when there is real concentration, we are open to everything.
Okay.
Not avoiding or being enclosed. Seems to me a difference between concentration and one-pointedness.
I see.
Yes, or being very open to everything around us.
Okay.
Is that what is meant with the word dharana?
Again, I think I understand what you're saying. So let's see if I do. And if I understand what you're asking, both aspects of the questions are the same. Because dharana not only means concentration, but it's the process by which we arrive to dhyana, which is contemplation of the object of concentration. So, all what you said, the question, is all true. It's all dharana as a process. Close and open, it's all true. You use in your mind. But the object of dharana is two things. To make sure that you already transcended pratyahara, control of the five senses. They don't bring you information during concentration. And second, that the flow of the mind on the interior object is constant, so you go to dhyana. If you fulfill those two, that is dharana. But remember, we are not there yet, or at least me, and maybe some of you. So for us, it's the practice of the method. For instance, when I study Plato, I want to contemplate the idea of justice, the idea of beauty, the idea of wisdom, the idea of the monad. Ideas. Why? Plato told us, if we can see the idea, we will be illuminated. While I concentrate to contemplate, I smell incredible cooking from Susan. You know, and it brings an information of yummy things to come. You know what I mean? It's so trained, so trained. So this is what I'm saying. So the fulfillment in the Yoga Sutras is you move from pratyahara to contemplation through the process, first as a practice, practice the paramitas, right, first, the practice, and then to achieve dhyana. The goal is not to concentrate. The goal is to learn the nature of dharana so we can go to dhyana, to contemplation. Because in dhyana, now you have a choice. Samadhi, moksha, liberation, prajna paramita, voice of the silence, remember the secret path, right? And the love for the human beings, compassion, and so on, right? So this is where the voice of the silent is taking us. It's a very important moment. No matter what we do, following the idea of there is a close and open, the moment you use the mind is the most important part in the practice, correct? We need to learn how to use the mind. We need to learn to think. We need to learn how to concentrate. This is what is the beginning of the voice of the silence. It's telling us three things. Yes, sir.
So I want to add to your
Yes.
explanation
Yes.
of the previous question, because it's still not totally clear for me. So could it be possible that in that state you're describing, so you're contemplating that sense of justice as your example, with total mind focused on that, and there's the smell of the food coming. So in my conviction, it could be that if there is still that smell of the cooking, but your mind is not disturbed by it. You just take it as an information. And I think, because otherwise, if you totally close your senses, then you're not in this world anymore. So this was something I was...
No, perfect.
Okay.
Isn't that a good thing? Yeah. The information of cooking is there.
Yes. But there's no psychological reaction.
Yes, very good. Thank you
because
so
otherwise
much.
we give the impression that we have to sit in a cave, concentrating, meditating, but totally disconnected from the world, and that's not our job.
Well, don't tell that to St. Francis of Assisi. Because he was you saw the movie, right? I saw the movie. I watched the movie. Brother, Sun, Sister Moon, did you see it? Beautiful, beautiful. The life of St. Francis. With Donovan singing the song. So St. Francis went to the guy. There's nothing wrong with that. But I understood the idea. It's all good. We need to think. Any other thoughts about it? We just need to think. Yes.
Martin, on the first part.
Sorry about the cooking. I didn't.
The dangers of the lower ET. I like Zen very much, and they have the same sort of precept. The psychic powers are, not to go into too much detail, but they're not really wanted. They're not part of the Zen practice. And somebody had asked this master who was writing this book that I was reading, well, why bother to mention it anyway if it's not part, or you shouldn't consider it? He said, because when we, investigate these powers in ourselves and we dedicate ourselves to, sort of cleaning our lives, these propensities that you say are with us will come up. And if we understand that they're, shall we say, not wanted on our path, when they come up, they will not disturb us. And when they go, we won't be disappointed.
Thank you.
That was
Not
interesting.
live Zen. So they are there. And there is a reason why Voice of the Silent starts with these three. It's very easy to see that the third instruction is to seek out the king of the senses. Why? Because we want to control the senses, so to speak, right? So to speak. We want them not to affect our dharana, dhyana, samadhi. We want to control and to understand why it's affecting us, correct? And this is a psychological world that we need to deal with, and psychologists are very good at that. And we all should be excellent at that. This is the work on the path. Therefore, what's very interesting is from number 6 to 13, the next 8 lines, the voice of the silence takes us by the hand to hear the voice of the silence. So in 3 pages in this book, it's done. It's totally done. Right? It's totally done. So it's so easy. It's right there. And what are they? When our form appears unreal, my form is unreal. When we have to hear the many, I don't hear the many. I discern the one, the inner sound. Remember, these are higher cities. Then we'll come to the realm of Sat, the truth. Oh, I am there. Before the soul can see, this is the Deva seeing. Later on, she's going to explain this better. You have to attain harmony, one of the virtues, right? Before the soul can have the Deva hearing, we have to have viraga, indifference to Takat and Takat, right? It's there. We want to see that. Before we can comprehend, because we have achieved that moment of union with the object of our silent speaker, the most inner aspect of ourselves, right? In that moment, we achieve illumination. We comprehend it. It's beyond mind. Buddhi is active. Pure light, right? Imagine that the object of concentration and contemplation, therefore meditation, is the idea of justice, because you want to work towards an activity that you don't know if it's true or false or just or unjust. What Plato recommends is you meditate, you contemplate the goddess of justice, and she will illuminate you if you achieve that. So you can take the idea of justice, concentrate on it, contemplate it, and when the moment is in union, you are united, that's yoga, you get illumination. You comprehend the idea that you want. And now you say, no, that is a bad cause. I don't see justice in that. Or, that is so important, I'm going to do it. But you do it from your inner work. You see what I'm saying? So, this is our work. This is what we need to teach. We need to teach exactly how to meditate, how to see reality, how to hear those abstract ideas, how to comprehend and be illuminated by that yoga state with our higher self or an object of contemplation. It's more or less clear? And then what happened? Oh my God, you hear the voice of the silence. We can close the book and go. You see how easy it is? But it's infernally difficult. It's hell to do that. It's so difficult. But in 3 pages, she resolved it for us. She gave us the mathematical formula. She just told us. So simple. Yet, lifetimes is going to take. Can we do it? Yes, we can. This is what Obama said. Yes, we can. Vote for me. Yes, we can. And yes, we can, and I think that's why we are here. I hope you feel it, that it's in our own destiny to do this. This is our next step. To see ourselves how we are, see where we are on the road, take the steps to be very close to the beginning of the path and transform ourselves. And then, what is it going to say, the voice of the silence? This is the book. The book is going to say things first to remind us that we are so stuck on the road. So the first thing the voice of the silence is going to tell us how stuck we are on the road. And second, he's going to remind us that we cannot forget to love humanity. See that? The voice of the silent continuously is going to act in these two worlds. Into our problems, attachments, misunderstandings, and delusions, of course. Sakayaditi and Atavara. I don't know if can you read this? Enrico is my can you read these letters?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you can. Okay, thank you. And it's going to remind us in other sections our the law that is ruling this process, which is compassion. If you don't like the word compassion, because you like more the word love, use love. If you are a Platonist like me, and I love the good, use the good. It's all the same. Good? So, the voice of the silence is going to tell us a story of who you are. And you need to see yourself in them. Two delusions, part of the skandhas, and skandhas is something that please study well. In the Mahatma letters they gave us the list of the 5, and they told us they added 2 more. And the 2 more are very simple to understand without the Sanskrit. One is the idea that you are you, right? Delusion of the personality. That you are your personality. And the second, that personality, or even individuality, is separated from everything. So, there are 2 illnesses in our soul. The belief that Martin is it, right, is real. And second, Martin is separated from all of you. And if you have pain or pleasure, I don't care. You know, whatever. No, those are illnesses of the soul. So there is a cure for that. And it's called the voice of the silence. It's going to remind us. Any question? Therefore, a big section of the book is the do's and the don'ts on the road, on the path. Maybe this is not good English, but it sounds very good to me. It's going to give a lot. These are the numbers. By the way, if you want this presentation, it's just copy and paste from the book with a couple slides. I don't know how I got them, but we can arrange something, email it to you, email it, you post it in some place unknown to people. We'll figure out. So you don't take photos, but you can take photos. The do's and the don'ts on the path, it has a function. The obvious function of knowing what to do and what not to do is something that Blavatsky is giving us purposely. Why? They are the first 2 stages in the Yoga Sutras. Yama and Niyama. The do's and the don'ts. The moment you enter consciously or unconsciously in the do's and the don'ts, you are entering in the road to the path, in the last stage. Because now you know. Now you know that there are things you need to do, there are things you don't need to do. Your inner life is going to change. Now when you do something and you say, I shouldn't have done it, or I should have done it, you're going to suffer. And because you know more. You see that? And when you know more, you're going to concentrate in what happened because you need to review your life. And when you concentrate, dharana is activated, and then the siddhi shows up. And then you start seeing more, knowing more, comprehending more, suffering more. And then you need to find a cure for all that, and you find the paramitas. You find the virtues. And when you find the virtues, there is one word that is going to describe that. Alleluia. Because it is the antidote. Alleluia. Yeah, Leonard Cohen. Hallelujah. Isn't that a beautiful song? Imagine when he figured out to compose this song. That's beautiful. Okay, so do's and don'ts, the moment they show up in your life, you are in the path of the Yoga Sutras. You are in the Yama and the Niyama. Automatically. Now, this is the road. This is, and for us, this is practice. Kill the love of life. Tanha. Yeah, that's me. I don't love life. Right? It's so easy, right? These are nothing. Oh, that's me. Don't complain about karma. God damn it, no, I don't complain ever about karma. Never. I never complain about karma. till something happens. And then, for a moment, we don't love karma. Why we need karma? Why we need karma? So the do's and the don'ts in the voice of the silence are meant for us to figure out that we are beginning on the right road. On the right road. You see it? You see? You see the relation with the Yoga Sutras? And if you don't, it's because you don't know the Yoga Sutras, which is okay. We just said that you're just beginning on the path, on the road. So study the Yoga Sutras. This is extremely important. Voice of the silence is a guide. Is guiding us. It's good, huh? This is it. This is it. This is reality. So there is a lot of do's and don'ts. A big part of the book. Do this, don't do this. Do this, don't do this. So much that we say, this is not for me. I don't need a book to tell me what to do, what not to do. You see, this is a reaction of our Kamamana. Hate when people say do's and don'ts. Isn't that true? Imagine else constantly you do things and no, that's not good. Yeah, that's good. No, that's not good. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. But that's the reality that the voice of the silence is. Therefore, on the road is the section of the halls, the 3 halls. What's important is on the 3rd hall, you are ready to go to the Turiya state, which is just like the state of Samadhi. And when you are in Samadhi, what happens? You are at the door of illumination. And then you forget the word. Nirvana is right there. And that's a problem. You see? So we are born in the hall of ignorance, where is, we are born and we open our eyes to it and so on. Then in the road we start learning, and that's what we're doing. Once we get to the hall of wisdom, we have those theories, we know how to concentrate, we know how to contemplate, right? And in the hall of ignorance, avidya, is where we are born, right? Where we saw the light for the first time, we're going to die there physically. But also is where the mind sees the physical life, the instinctive life, as reality. And we can get trapped there too. So the first hall is not just the physical world, but it has some fires of lust in it. So that's the road. And now we are awake to that moment. And in that awakening, we need to start learning. And in the learning, what happened is the psychic and the lower cities are going to show up automatically, whether or not we want. We need to learn them. We need to be careful. This is instruction. Learn, be careful. They are going to show up. The moment you do the do's and the don'ts, they're going to show up. All of learning. Don't look for the teachers there, the gurus, the highest teachings are not in the hall of learning, right? And Mara is there. Remember Mara? You know who Mara is? The guy who promised you richness, right? Lottery. You have the lottery here in Amsterdam? That's Mara. You don't play, I know. Right? Unless you say, I want to donate all that to the Theosophical Society. Please, Mara, give me that lottery. It's only 20 million euros. I give them all to you. Yeah, but you don't tell anybody else. You only told Mara. Right? It's a contract. Yeah. That doesn't happen. You see, Mara is really great. You know why it's great? Because it's you. And you are great. So, isn't that true? Have you ever talked to Mara? It's when you look in the mirror like these people say, hi, how you doing? Let's make a deal today. I do good, you do good. So Jesus in the desert, what's in the desert? In the movie was a lion, right? Comes out and, you want riches? Play the lottery. You want this, you know. So this is a big mess, and it's within us. It's the demons within us. So we have to learn to deal with that. And so there is a lot of good information to understand if we are trapped in that dialogue with our demons. And if we are, we have to resolve them. But they are there in the hall of learning. The beautiful hall of wisdom is there. It is where we can meditate and find that abstract world that Plato said the archetypes are, the ideas are. That is a beautiful world, full of light. Beyond that is what? Nirvana. We're done. We did it. Nothing else. What happens next after you arrive to Nirvana? Then we need to go back to cosmogenesis, and in the next Manvantara, the next cycle, you come back and move on, and move on, and move on. Right? And that period of pralaya, of rest, can be very long if you did it really fast, or very short if you did it very slow, like all of us, right? But you know, between races or between globes, or it's complicated, but not difficult to grasp some like basic ideas. But you've done what you came for. You've done, and that's what is done. And once you arrive to that beyond the hall of wisdom, you arrive to that state that the Hindus call moksha, nirvana. You totally done. You separated from the universe, the physical universe. You don't come back, and it's you know. Remember, the voice of the silence is to correct that. What's to correct? The mechanical way to do this business. It's not a mechanical way. The masters want us to remember compassion, the love for our fellow humans. Please remember, that's our work. Do a little bit at a time, increase it, and so on. The next part of the voice of the silence is the part of the Kundalini that is telling us why this is important. Again, the moment you start doing yama and niyama, this is going to happen regardless. You have to deal with that. And Blavatsky said, if it happens, you just need to work with it and learn it. If you can't, and etc., then try not to do things that they will be evoked. That. But in general, it's giving us 4 things to do. 1, if Kundalini awakes, return it to the chamber of the heart chakra. So if it happens, and we're all going to work on that today, and I'm not the master of that either. But if it happens, in 38 is telling us you must learn how to retire it in the chamber of the heart. Second, in 39, then raise it to the center, to the 6th chakra, right? To become the breath of the one soul. It's giving you tips. So when you find your guru and you find your way, you see Kundalini Yoga, etc., you know that you're doing it right. And it's not hurting you. And there is an article, or several articles done in USA, if you want, I have some at home, a PDF, that tells you that people who missed, who did it wrongly, what are the physical and psychological effects that happen, right? This is also very important. That's very dangerous if you don't find a good master. But then on 39 he's telling you about work it from the 6th chakra. In 40, then you become a walker of the sky. You become a god. Imagine that. And then you acquire the eye of the spirit, and that's why he's doing this. Because you need to see and comprehend the universe to become an adept. When you are at that level, this higher CD now is going to give you the eye of seeing the world as is, truth. So remember, this may not be the first time that you deal with this, and yet it may not happen to you, but if it does, voice of the silence, theosophically speaking, is giving us some hints, some guidance. So far so good? Yes? And then it gives us other things about what to do with that. You must gain the faculty to slay the lunar form at will, cleanse that mind, clean your heart. Remember, we already studied that. Goes back to merge in one sense all the five senses. Slay and merge the six sounds in one. All this is telling you that there is an inner, esoteric, occult world that is going to transform you into a future adept, if you choose to do that. If you choose to do that. This is the voice of the silence. It's an important part of it. Don't avoid it, because a lot of people in this world is having these issues, don't know what to do with them. And you need to give them guidance. We need to move to the next level. I'm not saying that you become teachers of Kundalini Yoga. I'm saying give guidance to the danger and to have patience, to take your own time, right? Are you ready for this? And go over the topics of the do's and the don'ts, back in the voice of the silence, because that is the responsibility. Now you need to work for humanity, so they don't destroy you. So far, so good? So what's interesting is that Blavatsky Olcott, do you remember in All Diary Leaves, the chakra aura precipitation Blavatsky did? Do you remember that? No? Susan, I gave Susan the photocopy of All Diary Leaves. You want to read it? It's 2 pages. That Olcott is relating how Blavatsky, do you see this photo? It's the face of a human being and the 2 chakras. You see that? The heart chakra, that's why it's here. She spoke about the heart chakra. And the head chakra. You see that? These are the 2 chakras. And there's a beautiful story of Olcott. Go ahead.
This story as well. This was new to me. So Olcott says that he had mentioned elsewhere of HBBs having done for him a precipitated picture on satin, on a kind of a glossy, shiny material, which showed him the stage that this medium, M.A. Oxen, had reached in his attempt to gain the power of projecting his double. And he says, I had better now give the details. And he says, one evening in the autumn of 1876, she and I were working as usual upon Isis. At opposite Isis unveiled, at opposite sides of our writing table, and dropped into a discussion of the principles involved in the conscious projection of the double. Through lack of early familiarity with those subjects, she was not good then at explaining scientific matters, and I found it difficult to grasp her meaning. Her fiery temperament made her prone to abuse me as an idiot in such cases. And this time she did not spare her expressions of impatience at my alleged obtuseness. Finally, she did the very best thing by offering to show me in a picture how Oxen's evolution was proceeding, and at once made good her promise. Rising from the table, she went and opened a drawer, from which she took a small roll of white satin, the remnant, I believe, of a piece she had been given in Philadelphia, and laying it on the table before me, proceeded to cut off a piece the size she wanted, after which she returned the roll to its place and sat down. She laid the piece of satin face down before her, almost covered it with a clean sheet of blotting paper, and rested her elbows on it, while she rolled herself a cigarette and lighted it. Presently she asked me to fetch her a glass of water. I said I would, but I first put to her some questions, which involved an answer and some delay. Meanwhile, I kept my eye on the exposed edge of satin, determined not to lose sight of it.
He didn't want any trick from Blavatsky.
Soon noticing that I made no sign of moving, she asked me if I did not mean to fetch her the water. I said, "Oh, certainly." "Then what do you wait for?" she asked. "I only wait to see what you are about to do with the satin," I replied. She gave me one angry glance, as though seeing that I did not mean to trust her alone with the satin, and then brought her down her clenched fist upon the blotting paper, saying, "I shall have it now, this minute." Then raising the paper and turning over the satin, she tossed it to me. Imagine, if you can, my surprise. On the sheeny side, I found a picture in colors of the most extraordinary character. There was an excellent portrait of the head only of another medium, Staten Moses, as he looked at that age, the almost duplicate of one of his photographs that hung on the wall of the room over the mantel. And she goes on to describe the effects of the aura. From the crown of the head shot out spikes of golden flame. At the places of the heart and the solar plexus were red and golden fires. The head and place of the thorax had clouds of pure blue, and bespecked throughout with flecks of gold. And he mentions that at that stage of his occult education, he had known nothing about the chakras, so he didn't know really what a lot of that had meant.
Okay. You can read that in the diary that he wrote, the old diary leaves. But what's interesting is this is Blavatsky precipitation of an aura with 2 chakras. Isn't that interesting? Now, to end this morning, I just want to remind you that in the world of Kundalini, there are 2 schools. A lot of people study Leadbeater, the monograph he wrote about the chakras. And a lot of people study Avalon, Serpent Power. I don't know if you have those books, if you do. And usually people who are in Kundalini Yoga, they are on the Leadbeater side, and you can see the auras and the chakras that they depict, or they are on the Hindu traditional way of doing this through the Avalon book or others, depending on how they present it to you. So you have these 2 worlds, right? That are the way that the Western world approaches the study of Kundalini. These people, and Arthur Avalon knew that, and these people always said that he was wrong because he misinterpreted certain things, and they described why. And then he said he's his good friend who spoke really great about him, that he really saw things. So you see these 2 worlds are there. And nowadays, depending on what the teacher or the guru presents you, you know which tradition they are with. The Leadbeater or the traditional Hindu way. Let's take a lunch, yes?